Hello, my name's Elsie. I'm 28 years old, and I gave birth to my beautiful son nearly a year ago. As much as I would love to say that these past few months have been amazing, I have to admit that it hasn't been. Let me start from the beginning. The first thing you should know about me is that I'm the daughter of a single mother who raised me in poverty. I've seen a woman juggle 4 jobs just to make sure that I had food on my plate and a good education. There's nobody in this world that I respect and I admire more than her. Seeing her work so hard inspired me to do the same, and I managed to get into a great college with a full scholarship. I picked up a few odd jobs to manage my expenses as well, and I was living well. During my last year of college, I met my now ex-husband, Peter. Peter and I met at the coffee shop that I worked at. He was a regular and happened to turn up one day at closing time when I was the only one there. We got to talking and we decided to go on a date. One date turned into many more, and then we were in an official relationship. One thing about Peter, he came from a very privileged background, and he let that show in every way possible. He never wore cheap clothes and almost always had the best version of every electronic gadget. He even had his own house by the age of 22. Anyway, I didn't care for his money. I knew firsthand how money never made me as happy as I was when it was only my mother and me. Peter and I got married after dating for 3 years. It was honestly one of the best days of my life. About 2 years after we got married, we were both ready to start trying for a baby. I got pregnant pretty quickly, and before I knew it, 9 months had passed and I was nearing my due date. Now, I wanted my mother to be by my side while I was giving birth because I wanted her to be there with me at all major milestones of my life. Unfortunately, my mom had to work, so she couldn't attend. My mom continued to work hard and refused to let me help out with money at all. The only way she'd accept help is if I bought her groceries or other important things that she probably wouldn't have been able to afford, so I did that instead. Anyway, I ended up giving birth to the most beautiful, perfect baby boy. I was discharged from the hospital the next day, and my mom came over that very day to meet me and the baby. Since it was the weekend, she asked me if she could stay with me and help me recover and get used to having a newborn at home. Of course, I agreed. I made that decision without Peter, so as soon as he got home from work, I informed him of my mom staying with us. "Sweetie, so I need to tell you something." "Yes, what is it?" "So, my mom is in the other room. She came to visit me after giving birth to check in on me and to meet our child." "Okay." "Yeah, and she asked me if she could stay for the weekend, and I said yes." "Elsie, you know I don't like that." "Why?" "I mean, doesn't your mom have to work? She's barely making ends meet as it is." "Yeah, but she took the weekend off just so she could be here with me." "I don't think that's a very smart idea." "Why? What's the problem you have with her being here? It's only one weekend. It's not like she's staying here for a month." "I don't have a problem with her." "Don't even lie. Tell me what the issue you have with her, or so help me God, I'll raise hell for you." "Calm down. Look, you just gave birth and your hormones are all over the place. Why don't we just let this go?" "First of all, don't you dare blame my hormones for this. I am genuinely curious to know why you think it's a bad idea for my mother to be in our house and to be with me after I gave birth. Secondly, we're not letting this go till you answer my questions." "Fine. If you really want to know, I'll tell you. I'm afraid that your mother is going to ask us for help with money because she took these 2 days off." "What? You've got to be kidding me. When has my mom ever asked us for financial help?" "She hasn't. Yet. You never know when she could turn." You sound insane. This is my mother we're talking about. She refused to take money from us even when she was really struggling. What makes you think she'll ask us for money when we just had a child? Look, you're probably too caught up with your emotions to think logically. But what I'm saying is not that far-fetched either. No, you listen to me. The only person I wanted by my side while I went into labor was my mother. She felt horrible that she couldn't be there, and this is her way of making up for it. And if you really think that she's going to ask for money just because she missed 2 days of work, then I'll pay her that money myself. You have nothing to worry about. Okay, as long as you agree that it's going to come out of your wallet, I don't mind. You are a real piece of work. I hope you know that. I turned around and stormed away from Peter by that point. I couldn't understand why he'd suddenly had a problem with my mother, especially since she had never once given him a reason to believe that she was so cheap as to ask us for money because she missed a day of work for us. Like I said, she never even took money from me before I was married. I was too angry to talk to Peter for the rest of the day, but I was able to calm myself down by spending time with my son and my mother. During the second day of my mother's visit, Peter's younger sister, Irene, came over to visit me and the baby. The thing about Irene is that she's the black sheep of her family. She's just so different from the rest of them. She doesn't have the pride or the ego that the rest of her family has, and I have to admit that I admired her for that. She was in her last year of college, and she was doing well, as far as I knew. Because of how much I liked her, having her over was nice for me. Irene asked us if she could stay over with us for the night, considering the next day was a Sunday, and Peter and I had no objection to it. We spent the night playing a variety of games and ended it by watching a movie. That night, Peter apologized for being mean to my mother the other day, and I forgave him. I thought that would have been the end of it, but oh, how wrong I was. Monday morning, as I'm preparing Peter's lunch for him to take to work, I hear Peter furiously running down the stairs. He looked frazzled when he walked into the kitchen, and I was genuinely scared something happened to him. It's gone! Oh my God, it's gone! Whoa, what's going on? What's gone? My watch. The really expensive one, it's not there in my bedside drawer. Did you check your cupboard or the dresser? No, Elsie, I only checked one place and decided it was missing. Of course I looked everywhere. Okay, I'm sorry for asking a stupid question, but why don't we calm down a little and try to think rationally about where it could possibly be? I don't know any other place it could be. Besides, I didn't even take it out last week. I mean, we're both overtired from taking care of our child, and we're both constantly sleep deprived now. Maybe you took it out, but you don't remember. You think I wouldn't remember taking out my $2,000 watch? You know I guard that thing with my life. I'm just listing out possibilities here. You don't have to get mad at me. Oh no, I do have to get mad at you. I know for a fact that my watch was stolen, and there's only one person that I can think of who did this. What are you talking about? I'm talking about how your mother stole my watch. What? Did you realize how insane you sound? Do I really sound insane? Or am I just telling you the truth? I told you that letting her live with us was insane. Why in the world would my mother steal from you? Because she probably wanted to be compensated for her days off. My mom has no reason to do that. She adores you. And the last thing she'd ever do is steal from you. Besides, she doesn't care for watches, especially big chunky watches like yours. Who said anything about her keeping the watch? She probably sold it and kept all the money for herself. I mean, what more would you expect from a desperate scum like her? Excuse me? That is my mother you're talking about. You do not call her names. You have no proof of her stealing anything, so keep your thoughts to yourself. How can I? You were the one who allowed her to stay here, knowing full well that our house was full of things that she could easily pawn off to help her live a better life. I will not take you slandering my mother this way. Then ask her to pay up for the watch or return it to me. If she can't, then you said that you would help her out, so I expect you to pay me back. Are you being serious right now? Believe me, Elsie, I've never been this serious in my life. Peter scowled at me and then left the house in a huff. I was in shock. I never expected Peter to accuse my mother of stealing his stupid watch. My mother was the most honest and hard-working person I knew. She couldn't even hurt a fly, let alone steal an expensive watch. I remember one time she lied to me about what happened to one of my artworks that I brought home from school, and she got so consumed by her guilt for lying to me that the next day she broke down crying and told me she accidentally threw it in the trash because it was a part of the trash pile. My mother would never have been able to keep a secret that big for longer than an hour. I knew her that much. I had nothing to worry about there. But what I did have to worry about was my relationship with Peter. I didn't know if it was a postpartum thing, but I was seriously beginning to question our relationship. After Peter accused my mother of wanting to take money from us, I began wondering if our relationship was right for me. But now, calling her a desperate scum? I wanted to divorce him. I didn't immediately take any action, though. After all, I still didn't know if my emotions were all too heightened because I just gave birth. I was also grappling with the worry of how I would pay Peter back if he asked me to do it. He knew very well that it was not an amount I could easily afford. I would have talked to my mother, but I didn't want her to find out about what was happening. She would blame herself for coming in between us, and I didn't want that. Unfortunately, though, my mom did end up finding out about the stolen watch, and she was accused of having stolen it. I knew she found out because she called me about 3 days after Peter told me that his watch went missing to tell me that she knew. Hi, sweetie, are you free to talk? Oh, hi, Mom. Of course I'm free to talk, and yes, before you ask, I'm doing good, and so is your grandson, and yes, I'm feeding him well. Hold on, are you crying? I'm so sorry. No, why are you saying sorry? Why are you crying? Are you okay? Are you injured or something? No, it's nothing like that. Was it a bad thing for me to stay over at your place this last weekend? Of course not. Why would you ask me that? My house is as much your house as it is mine. I just wanted to know, that's it. Why did you want to know? Oh, no. Did Peter say anything to you? No, forget I said anything, please. Absolutely not. Tell me right now, did Peter say anything at all to you after you left from here? Don't be mad. But he called me up 2 days ago and he began yelling at me. He called me all sorts of names, including a thief. I had no idea what he was talking about, and then he told me that his $2,000 watch was missing. He told me that the only person who could steal it was me, and Sweetie, you have to believe me. I didn't steal anything. Mom, I know you didn't steal anything. I told him as much. I don't know why he had to call you to accuse you, but I'm going to teach him a lesson. Oh, you don't have to do that. Just as long as you believe me, I'm okay. I didn't tell you immediately because he threatened to take legal action against me if I told you. It was eating me up on the inside to not tell you, and now that I did and you believe me, I feel better. Although I don't have any money to pay him back. What are you talking about? You didn't steal it, so you don't have to pay for anything. Yeah, you and I know that, but Peter does not. He sounded very angry when he told me that I had a week to pay for his lost watch. You don't have to worry about that at all, okay, Mom? Let me take care of this. I'm going to find this watch for him, and then when he least expects it, I'm going to hand him divorce papers. Divorce? I didn't want things to get this bad, sweetie. You can't divorce the man. You love him. He's the father of your child. I loved him, yes, but this is not the man I fell in love with. This is a man that cares more about himself than anyone else, and I've been blind to it for so long. I draw the line at him hurting the one person in the world I look up to the most. Okay, sweetie, I'll be here to help you out with whatever you need. Thank you so much for sticking up for me and for believing me. Of course, Mom. Now, you try to forget all about this and let me take care of things. Anger, pure, unfiltered anger is what I felt after that call. I couldn't believe the lengths that Peter would go to just to belittle my mother. Calling her names and demanding she pay for the watch was not something I could tolerate. So I decided to do some digging. I went to all the reputed jewelry stores in our town and even scoured the internet for any traces of the watch. I hadn't found anything. That left only one place, the pawn shops. I went to practically all the pawn shops in town. Don't ask me how I managed to do that and take care of a newborn. Let's just say that when your mother's instincts kick in, you suddenly become a superhuman who's able to complete any task, whether child-related or not. Anyway, none of the major pawn shops in my town had the watch, and just as I was about to give up, I remembered that there was a tiny pawn shop just 3 blocks away from my house. I crossed my fingers and hoped that the watch would be there, and wouldn't you know it, it was. The pawn shop owner let me have a look at the watch, and after a little prodding and begging, he finally told me who sold it to him. I was so beyond shocked at who stole the watch that I asked him if I could see the CCTV footage of the day. He let me see it, and when I confirmed that he was telling the truth, I asked him for a printout of the culprit in the store that day. I also made a quick phone call and found out why the watch got stolen in the first place. When I found the watch, it had already been a week since it got stolen, and it had also been a week since Peter talked to me. So I couldn't wait to get back home and shove the evidence of the thief in his face. Thankfully, Peter was at home when I got back. So I went around to a few pawn shops today to search for your watch. The watch that your mother stole from me, and did you find anything? I did find the watch, yes. But I asked the pawn shop owner about who sold the watch and when. Did he tell you that your mother stole it? Is this your roundabout way of apologizing to me? No, I have nothing to apologize for. What do you mean? The pawn shop owner told me the funniest thing. Apparently someone did sell him the watch last weekend, and it wasn't my mother. What? Then who was it? It was your sister, Irene. What? That's impossible. I knew you'd doubt me, so I asked the owner to give me photographs of the CCTV footage of the day that Irene walked into the shop and sold him the watch. Here you go. There she is, clear as day, and there is the watch on the counter. And before you question if it really is your watch, the watch is engraved with your initials on the back. But why would Irene steal from me? It's simple. I called your mother, and it turns out that she cut Irene off because she caught Irene stealing from her too. Irene probably got desperate for money and she stole from you. And it was the perfect opportunity for her to come over when my mom was there because she knew how much you looked down on my mom. Look, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. Save it. I don't want to hear any apologies from you. All I want is for you to call Irene over and confront her about this whole thing. I'll definitely do it. In the meantime, I know you don't want any apologies, but I really am sorry for all of this and for all the things I said. Are you really sorry? Or is this just an apology meant to make me happy for the moment? Are you going to turn on my mother again when something else of yours goes missing? I explained to you why I thought that way. I still agree with my reasoning. It's just that this time your mom didn't do anything and I was wrong. I'm sorry, okay? Whatever. Just call Irene over so you can talk to her about this. Hearing that Peter still thought he was right for being so elitist made one thing clear in my mind. I needed to divorce him. One of the first things I ever opened up to him about was how much I loved my mother. He knew how important she was to me. He knew how selfless my mother was, yet he couldn't look past her class to see the person she truly was. While Peter called Irene up and asked her to come over to our place that weekend, I went out to file for our divorce. When Peter was at work, I gradually packed up my things and shifted them to my mom's place. My mom was helpful, but she was silent for the most part. I knew that she was inwardly berating herself, but I also knew that I did not have the mental capacity at that point to explain things to her in a better manner. I just always reassured her that she was not the reason for everything that was happening. You know what else is funny though? Peter never once realized how empty the house was getting with each day that passed. By the end of the week, only the bare bones of our house were there, and Peter barely recognized the difference. That only made me feel better about the decision I made to leave him. Anyway, that weekend, Irene came over. I could tell that Peter was trying his best to keep his cool and make sure that he would not explode in anger at his sister. When I opened the door to Irene, she looked pale and sweaty. She nervously greeted me. Hi guys, how's everything going? Irene, sit down. What's going on? I hope everything's fine. It's not. We know what you did. Do you want to explain yourself? What are you talking about? I'm talking about how you stole my $2,000 watch last weekend and then pawned it off. I didn't do that. Save the lies, Irene. Here's the picture proof of you selling it to the pawn shop 3 blocks away. Now explain yourself. Well, I didn't have any money. Mom cut me off because she caught me lying about how much money I needed. She barely gave me much money to begin with, and I was barely getting through each month. I tried for months to find a job, but everywhere I applied either turned me down or never responded. I needed to get some money somehow. So, you couldn't have just asked me for some help. You had to steal from me? You don't think it's humiliating to ask you that? You never miss a chance to shame me for asking you for help, be it money or anything else. Oh, I have to agree with you on that. What? Why are you agreeing with her? Because she's right. You make it so hard for anybody to approach you for help because you always lord it over them as some insult. We can talk about this later. No, actually, I don't want to talk about this later. Here's the divorce papers. I'm moving out. What? What is this? Why are you divorcing me? I don't want to be with a man that would so willingly accuse my mother of stealing from him and then calling her a desperate scum just because she earns less than him. Not to mention, you didn't even apologize for anything that you said. You cannot be serious, Irene. This is all your fault. If you hadn't stolen my watch, I wouldn't have to deal with a divorce. No, Irene, you are not to blame for the divorce at all. Look, I get how hard it is to get a job right now, and I'm sure that I could help you find something. You stealing the watch only finally opened my eyes to what kind of a person Peter truly is. You're taking the side of a thief over the father of your child? If you can't see why exactly she became a thief, then it's only proving my point. So you only asked me to call her here so you could humiliate me? Of course. You need to understand how humiliated I felt when you accused my mom of being a thief. And then you also went ahead and told her that over the call, and also threatened to take legal action against her. Yes, I know about your call to her. I was just very angry about the whole thing. I didn't mean to. Whether you meant to call her and accuse her of stealing from you or not, you still did it. That's enough for me to leave you. If you want to discuss custody agreements and all that, you can talk to my lawyer. You can't just leave me like that. Don't I mean anything to you at all? After what you said about my mother, who, by the way, you know worked super hard to provide for me, absolutely not. You don't deserve my love, and I'd much rather be a single mom than be with someone who constantly looks down on me and my family. Come on, Irene, I'll take you back to your dorm. Bye, Peter. I was shaking with anger by the end of the conversation, and I knew that I needed to exit as fast as possible. Irene looked gobsmacked at the way the events turned so quickly, but I grabbed her arm and led her out of the house. In the car, I made sure to tell Irene that even though I defended her in front of Peter, I still did not agree with what she did. She needed to properly apologize to Peter and work towards paying him back. Irene began to cry and thanked me profusely for being so understanding. I felt so bad for her because I knew just what kind of person my mother-in-law was. Peter got his better than everyone attitude from somewhere after all. After I dropped Irene off at her dorm, I made my way to my mom's place. My mom greeted me with the biggest hug and cried into my shoulder. She felt horrible because she thought she was the reason that Peter and I were getting a divorce. But after a long conversation, I helped her realize why that was not the case. Peter did not stop trying to get in contact with me, but I made it explicitly clear that I wanted nothing to do with him and that if he wanted to talk to me, he could go through my lawyer. Thankfully, Peter realized eventually that I was not going to back down on my decision, so he signed the papers and we got divorced pretty quickly. We had also signed prenups, and that made the entire process so much easier. As for custody of our child, my state favors the mother, so I managed to get full custody. But Peter got visitation every weekend, and for the sake of our child, I've decided to be as civil as possible with Peter. That will obviously stop the second that Peter starts bad-mouthing me or anybody that he considers beneath him to our son. Anyway, it's been a good few months since Peter and I got a divorce, and Peter still texts me from time to time to tell me that he regrets what he said every day. He tells me that he still loves me, but I can't help but think that it isn't true, especially since he had been so ready to put me and my mother through financial ruin over a watch. Because I never replied to him, he suddenly switched from professing his love for me to telling me I was a poor, disgusting scum who only used him. I could tell that he was saying that to get a rise out of me, but I also couldn't help but wonder if he thought that way of me throughout our relationship. I got a lot of calls from Peter's family calling me a pathetic person for leaving Peter and for helping Irene get a job. I blocked them all, moved on with my life. My divorce from Peter ended up bringing me some really good luck because the very same day our divorce got finalized, I got a huge promotion at work. So I can now live a lot more comfortably and I can save up a lot more for my son. Right now, I still live with my mother because my income is also helping her, and she means the world to me. I've learned my lesson. I'm never going to let anyone belittle me or my family ever again. Thank you for listening to my story.